there are many other items that made the Roman soldier to what it was. The Roman war dagger. It's called the pugio.
To dominate the vast territories of the ancient world and forge an empire that would stand for centuries, Roman soldiers wielded weapons of unparalleled innovation. These finely crafted tools of war could shatter shields, breach fortifications, and strike fear into the hearts of their enemies with deadly efficiency. Join us as we uncover the most formidable and lesser-known Roman weapons that helped shape the destiny of a civilization. Number 15. Scorpio, the pinpoint precision of Roman artillery. Silent and deadly, the Scorpio struck terror into Rome's enemies, its sting as precise as its arachnid namesake. This compact, crossbow-like artillery piece revolutionized ancient warfare with its lethal combination of portability and power. Measuring a mere 27 inches, the Scorpio belied its small size with devastating impact. Its ingenious design, a composite bow paired with a slider mechanism and torsion spring system crafted from animal sinews, propelled bolts with unerring accuracy up to 328 feet. This portable powerhouse stored and unleashed energy with an efficiency that made it the scourge of battlefields across the empire. The Scorpio's accuracy made it invaluable in siege warfare. Skilled Roman artillerymen could target specific enemy units or weak points in fortifications, giving their side a crucial tactical advantage. A well-placed Scorpio bolt could take out an enemy officer, disable a siege engine, or ignite flammable materials within an enemy stronghold. But the Scorpio's impact went beyond its physical destruction. The psychological effect of this weapon was immense. The mere sight of a Scorpio bolt streaking across the battlefield, finding its mark with uncanny precision, could sow panic and disorder among enemy ranks. The Scorpio's influence shaped Roman military doctrine. Each Roman legion fielded 60 of these weapons, deployed in groups to maximize their impact. The Scorpio's mobility allowed it to be used in both offensive and defensive roles, making it a versatile tool in the Roman military arsenal. In the chaos of battle, the Scorpio could be a decisive factor. Its ability to neutralize enemy shields and armor, combined with its demoralizing impact, could swing the tide of an engagement. Julius Caesar himself praised the Scorpio's effectiveness during his Gallic campaigns, acknowledging its potential to turn defeat into victory. Yet the Scorpio had its limitations. It required a skilled two-man crew to operate at full capacity. Its relative immobility also left it vulnerable to flanking attacks by enemy cavalry if left unprotected. Despite these challenges, the Scorpio remained a key part of Roman warfare for centuries. Its design was so effective that it influenced the development of artillery pieces well into the Middle Ages. Number 14. Corvis. Rewriting the rules of naval combat. Talons of iron grasped enemy ships, transforming tumultuous sea battles into Rome's favored arena of war. The Corvis, aptly named after the cunning raven, emerged as a revolutionary boarding device that reshaped ancient naval warfare. Conceived in the crucible of conflict, this 36-foot bridge of conquest answered Rome's pressing need to counter Carthaginian naval supremacy. Just 4 feet wide, the Corvis extended Roman power across the waves, its spike-shaped beak designed to pierce and grip enemy decks with unyielding tenacity. This brilliant innovation allowed Roman legionaries to carry their land-based prowess onto the rolling seas, turning naval engagements into the close-quarters combat at which they excelled. In the heat of battle, the Corvis would be lowered onto an enemy vessel, its iron spike plunging into the deck, locking the two ships together. Across this narrow bridge, Roman Marines would surge, bringing their formidable close combat skills to bear in the cramped confines of the enemy ship. The results were devastating. The Corvis neutralized the advantages of superior seamanship, turning naval engagements into brutal, hand-to-hand melees that played to the Romans' strengths. At the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC, the Corvis proved its worth, enabling the Roman fleet under Gaius Duilius to achieve a resounding victory over the Carthaginians. However, the Corvis had its drawbacks. The device's weight, positioned at the front of Roman ships, made them unstable and susceptible to capsizing in rough seas. Number 13. Plumbata. raining death from afar. 12 inches of terror transformed Rome's foot soldiers into a storm of steel. The Plumbata, a weighted dart ingeniously crafted, redefined the role of Roman infantry in the twilight of the empire. Its elegant simplicity masked lethal efficiency. A wooden shaft, merely a foot long, crowned with a barbed iron head and weighted with lead. This clever design, concentrating mass behind the point, granted the Plumbata a striking power that belied its modest size. Wielded by skilled Roman soldiers, the Plumbata was a force to be reckoned with. Carried in sets of 5, nestled in a special compartment within the shield, these darts could be launched with devastating effect. Volleys of Plumbatae could descend upon enemy formations, piercing shields and armor, spreading chaos and confusion before the clash of the main infantry lines. The Plumbata's potency lay in its range. It could strike targets up to 98 feet away, granting Roman infantry a crucial advantage. They could disrupt enemy charges or target key individuals before close combat commenced. The adoption of the Plumbata in the late Roman army reflects Rome's readiness to embrace new tactics and technologies. As the empire confronted new threats, especially from mounted enemies such as the Goths and the Sassanids, the need for infantry to have effective ranged weapons grew increasingly evident. The Plumbata was an answer to this evolving battlefield, a means for Rome's foot soldiers to even the odds against mounted adversaries. Archaeologists have discovered Plumbati across the expanse of the Roman world, from Britain to the eastern frontier. These findings reveal a weapon that was widely adopted and highly effective, a reflection of the sophistication of Roman military engineering.
The last 3 were in about a 3-meter group to the left of the target. Let's see if we can do any better this time.
Number 12, Pugio, the legionaries' last line of defense. In the brutal, close-quarters realm of ancient combat, few weapons were as vital as the Pugio. This compact, double-edged dagger, the constant companion of the Roman legionary, was more than a mere sidearm. It was a lifeline, a final recourse in the chaos of battle. At a mere 7 to 11 inches in length, the Pugio might have seemed insignificant compared to the Gladius, the Roman soldier's primary weapon. But its diminutive size masked its crucial role. Worn on the belt, typically on the left side, the Pugio was always at hand, ready to be drawn in an instant. The Pugio's design was a masterpiece of practicality. Its leaf-shaped blade, crafted from high-quality steel, was optimized for both stabbing and slashing.
But there are many other items that made the Roman soldier to what it was. For example, worn on the left, the Roman war dagger. It's called the Pugio.
The handle, frequently made from bone or ivory, offered a firm, comfortable grip, essential in the heat of combat. Some Pugiones even featured ornate decorations, with intricate carvings or inlaid gems, reflecting their owner's status and personal style. But the Pugio was far more than a simple weapon. It was an emblem of the Roman soldier's identity, as integral to his equipment as his armor or shield. To bear a Pugio was to belong to an elite fraternity, a warrior of Rome. In the melee of battle, the Pugio truly shone. When the press of bodies rendered wielding a sword impossible, the Pugio became a savior. Its compact size permitted lightning-fast strikes, finding chinks in enemy armor. In the crush of a shield wall, where every inch mattered, the Pugio could spell the difference between survival and death. Even in the corridors of power, the Pugio played a part. The most infamous incident, undoubtedly, was the assassination of Julius Caesar, stabbed 23 times by conspiring senators wielding Pugiones. In that instant, the Pugio became an instrument of history, an emblem of the turbulence that convulsed the Roman Republic. Number 11, Fals, the scourge of Dacia. Curved like a predator's claw, the Fals carved fear into enemies' hearts. This sickle-shaped sword, wielded with lethal precision by Dacian warriors, became a nightmare for legionaries accustomed to straight-edged combat. Stretching up to 41 inches, the Fals' singular design defied Roman martial conventions. Its inner curve, tapering to a vicious point, complemented an outer edge honed to razor sharpness.
This does get commonly called a falx, and falx is probably the most common name that people...
Some variants, known as the falx supina, featured a blade that curved back toward the wielder, creating a hook-like profile that promised gruesome wounds. This odd yet deadly weapon stood in stark contrast to the short, straight swords favored by Rome's finest, challenging their tactical supremacy and protective armor alike. Wielded by adept Dacian warriors, the Fals was a fearsome weapon. Its unique shape allowed for devastating slashing attacks, able to cleave through armor and shields with frightening ease. The curve of the blade also made it ideal for hooking and pulling, tearing away an opponent's shield and leaving them open to a killing blow. The Falx's effectiveness did not go unnoticed by the Romans. During Trajan's Dacian wars of the early 2nd century AD, Roman soldiers found themselves on the receiving end of this terrifying weapon. The Falx's ability to breach Roman armor and inflict grievous wounds sent shockwaves through the Roman military establishment. The Romans, in response, adapted. Trajan's Column, the triumphal monument erected in Rome to commemorate the conquest of Dacia, depicts Roman soldiers donning a new type of helmet, fortified with extra bands of metal to defend against the Falx's deadly blows. The Romans also adopted a new type of armor, the Lura Segmentata, which provided superior protection against the Dacians' slashing attacks. But the Romans' respect for the Fals extended beyond mere defensive measures. In a nod to the weapon's efficacy, some Roman auxiliary units, particularly those recruited from Dacia after its conquest, adopted the Fals as their own. The Dacian Fals evolved into the Roman falcata, a weapon that would see service across the empire. Number 10, Spiculum, the spear of late Rome. One throw, one kill, and one less weapon for the enemy. The Spiculum, heir to the legendary Pilum, revolutionized late Roman warfare with its ingenious self-sabotaging design. This slender javelin bent destiny and metal alike on impact. Its iron head, engineered for controlled failure, transformed into a twisted, unusable shard upon striking its target. Gone were the days when Rome's foes could return fire with captured weapons. Each Spiculum, once unleashed, became a permanent, irretrievable obstacle on the battlefield, a physical manifestation of Rome's tactical superiority. But the Spiculum's genius lay not just in its ability to deny the enemy a weapon. Its slender profile and long, thin shaft allowed it to concentrate its force on a small area, giving it superior armor-piercing capabilities. A well-aimed Spiculum could punch through an enemy's shield, rendering their primary means of defense useless. The adoption of the Spiculum marked a significant shift in Roman military doctrine. As the empire faced new threats and evolving battlefield tactics, the need for a more versatile and efficient throwing spear became apparent. The Spiculum, with its lightweight design and single-use nature, allowed Roman soldiers to carry more javelins into battle, increasing their throwing volume and potential impact. The transition from the Pilum to the Spiculum was gradual, with both weapons coexisting for a time. But as the benefits of the Spiculum became clear, it increasingly became the javelin of choice for Roman infantry. By the 4th century CE, the Spiculum had largely replaced the Pilum, a telling indicator of its effectiveness. Archaeologists have unearthed Spiculum heads across the breadth of the Roman Empire, from Britain to the eastern frontier. These finds, often bearing the distinctive twisted profile of a thrown Spiculum, provide tangible evidence of the weapon's widespread use and the Roman war machine's reach. The Spiculum's impact extended beyond the battlefield. Its adoption signaled a shift in Roman weapons production and logistics. The simpler, more streamlined design of the Spiculum made it easier and quicker to manufacture compared to the more complex Pilum. This allowed for a more efficient supply chain, ensuring that Roman soldiers were never without their trusty javelins. Number 9, Hasta, the spear of early Rome. In the early days of Rome, before the Gladius and the Pilum became the iconic weapons of the Roman legionary, there was the Hasta. This simple yet effective spear was the backbone of Rome's early military might, a weapon that helped forge an empire. The Hasta was a formidable weapon, typically measuring around 6.5 feet in length. Its iron head, shaped like a willow leaf, was mounted on a sturdy wooden shaft, usually made of ash. The Hasta's length gave its wielder a significant reach advantage, allowing them to strike at the enemy while staying out of range of their weapons. In the hands of Rome's early heavy infantry, the Hastati, Hasta was a weapon to be feared. Deployed in tightly packed formations, the Hastati would present a bristling wall of spear points to the enemy, a daunting sight for any foe. The Hasta was primarily a thrusting weapon, designed for use in the close, brutal combat of the ancient battlefield. Its leaf-shaped head was effective at piercing enemy armor, while its long shaft could be used to parry and deflect incoming blows. But the Hasta was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of the Roman soldier's skill and status. In the early Roman army, The Hasta was the mark of a trained warrior, a man who had proven his worth on the battlefield. As Rome's military tactics evolved, however, the Hasta began to fall out of favor. The introduction of the Gladius, a short, stabbing sword, and the Pilum, a throwing spear, changed the way Roman soldiers fought. The Hasta, with its unwieldy length, became less practical in the more mobile, flexible style of warfare that Rome began to adopt. But even as the Hasta faded from the front lines, it remained a part of Roman military culture. The Hasta Pura, a ceremonial spear without an iron head, was awarded to soldiers who had shown exceptional valor in battle. It was a high honor, a recognition of a warrior's bravery and skill. The Hasta's influence can be seen in the very language of Rome. The word hastati, the name given to the early Roman heavy infantry, is derived from hasta. The term prima hasta, meaning of the first spear, was used to denote the front rank of a military formation, a nod to the weapon's early prominence. Number 8. Caltrops, the hidden danger of ancient battlefields. Ancient battlefields harbored deadly surprises, proving sometimes the most unassuming weapons could be the most effective. Enter the caltrop, a small, spiked device that littered the ground, waiting to maim and hobble unsuspecting enemies. Caltrops were fiendishly simple in their design. Typically made of iron, these devices consisted of 4 spikes arranged in a tetrahedron shape, ensuring that no matter how they landed, one spike always pointed upwards. They were small enough to be easily scattered, yet large enough to pose a significant threat. The primary targets of caltrops were enemy cavalry and infantry. A horse stepping on a caltrop would suffer a debilitating injury, often putting it out of action and throwing its rider. For foot soldiers, a caltrop could pierce through the sole of a sandal or boot, causing a painful wound that could greatly hinder their mobility. In the hands of Roman soldiers, caltrops were a versatile defensive tool. They could be scattered around fortifications, creating a hidden perimeter that would slow down and disrupt enemy advances. During retreats, caltrops could be left behind to cover the Roman army's withdrawal, making pursuit a dangerous proposition for the enemy. Caltrops were particularly effective against Rome's mounted foes, such as the Parthians and the Sassanids. These enemies relied heavily on their cavalry's speed and mobility, advantages that caltrops could significantly negate. A well-placed field of caltrops could turn a devastating cavalry charge into a limping, disorganized mess. Roman military manuals, such as Vegetius de Re Militari, mention the use of caltrops, offering insights into their tactical employment. Archaeological finds of caltrops, often in the vicinity of ancient battlefields and fortifications, provide tangible evidence of their use. Number 7. Verutum, the skirmisher's dart. Swift as a serpent strike, the Verutum danced through the air, heralding Roman victory. This short, lightweight spear became the lethal instrument of Rome's skirmishers, light infantry troops who sowed chaos in enemy ranks before the main battle's furious crescendo. Simplicity and deadly efficiency merged in the Verutum's design. At a modest 3.6 feet in length, this versatile weapon balanced the demands of range and close combat. Light enough for accurate, forceful throws, yet sturdy enough to withstand the brutal clash of hand-to-hand fighting, the Verutum embodied the adaptability that made Rome's military machine so formidable. In the hands of Rome's skirmishers, known as velites, the Verutum was a weapon of harassment and disruption. Before the main infantry lines clashed, the velites would advance, hurling their Veruta at the enemy ranks. The aim was not necessarily to cause massive casualties, but rather to disrupt the enemy's formation, to create gaps and weak points that the main Roman infantry could then exploit. The Verutum's design was key to its effectiveness. Its small leaf-shaped iron head was mounted on a slender wooden shaft, allowing it to fly straight and true. The shaft was often made of cornel wood, known for its strength and flexibility, ensuring that the Verutum could withstand the rigors of battle. The velites carried several Veruta into battle, typically between 5 and 7. This allowed them to maintain a steady stream of harassment, constantly peppering the enemy with their darts. Once their Veruta were exhausted, the velites would retreat behind the main infantry lines, their job done. Number 6. Pilum Moral, the sentinel of Roman fortifications. In the high-stakes world of ancient siege warfare, the Pilum Moral stood as a formidable defender of Roman battlements. This stout wooden stake, typically crafted from hardy oak, was a versatile tool in the legion's defensive arsenal. Measuring approximately 5 to 6 feet in length and 2 to 4 inches in width at its thickest point, the Pilum Moral was a substantial weapon. Its square section shape tapered to a point at both ends. with a narrowed central portion that likely served as a handle for easy maneuvering. The exact manner in which these stakes were employed is a matter of ongoing debate among scholars. Some suggest that they were incorporated into the ramparts of Roman marching camps, known as castra. Angled outwards from the ramparts, they would have presented a daunting obstacle to attackers attempting to scale the walls. Alternatively, they may have been arranged vertically atop the rampart, forming a rudimentary but effective fence. Another theory proposes that the Pilum Moral were lashed in pairs at intervals along a log or beam, creating a cheval de frise, a movable barrier that could be used to block gateways or other access points. Some experts even speculate that 3 stakes might have been bound together to form a defense resembling a Czech hedgehog, a giant caltrop-like structure that would have been difficult to push aside and impossible to collapse. Regardless of the specific method of deployment, the Pilum Moral undoubtedly played a crucial role in Roman defensive strategy. Each soldier was typically equipped with 2 of these stakes, highlighting their importance in rapidly fortifying positions. During the Battle of Mount Algidus in 458 BC, the Roman general Cincinnatus demonstrated the versatility and effectiveness of the Pilum Moral. He ordered each of his soldiers to provide 12 of these stakes. These stakes were then used to construct a fortification around the besieging equi forces, effectively turning the tables on the would-be attackers. Number 5. Contis, the lance of Roman cavalry. A harbinger of devastation, the Contis redefined cavalry warfare. This long, heavy spear, wielded by Roman horsemen, pierced through armor and flesh with terrifying ease, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The Contis was a formidable weapon, typically measuring between 9.8 to 14.8 feet in length. Its substantial size and weight made it an ideal instrument for cavalry charges, where the combined momentum of horse and rider could be channeled into a single, devastating thrust. The adoption of the Contis marked a significant shift in Roman cavalry tactics. Prior to its introduction, Roman cavalry primarily served as skirmishers, harassing the enemy with javelins and arrows. But with the Contis, they became shock troops, capable of smashing through enemy lines with brutal efficiency. The Contis's effectiveness lay in its reach. Its long shaft allowed Roman cavalrymen to strike at their enemies from a distance, often before the opposing cavalry or infantry could retaliate. In the swirling melee of a cavalry engagement, this extra reach could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Wielding the Contis required significant skill and strength. The weapon's length and weight made it unwieldy, demanding that its user be a skilled horseman and a strong fighter. The Roman cavalry, known as equites, underwent rigorous training to master the use of this weapon. Number 4. Gladius Hispaniensis, the precursor to the iconic Gladius. The Gladius, the iconic sword of the Roman legionary, is a weapon steeped in legend, but its origin story is often overlooked. Enter the Gladius Hispaniensis, the precursor to the famous blade, a weapon that laid the groundwork for Rome's military dominance. The Gladius Hispaniensis, as its name suggests, was a sword of Spanish origin. Adopted by the Romans during their conflicts with the Iberian tribes in the 3rd century BCE, this sword was a departure from the traditional Roman swords of the time. What set the Gladius Hispaniensis apart was its design. Unlike the longer, slashing swords favored by the Romans, the Gladius Hispaniensis was a shorter stabbing weapon. Its blade, typically around 23.6 inches in length, was designed for close-quarters combat, where a quick, precise thrust could be more effective than a wild slash. The sword's design spoke to its Iberian origins. The Celtiberian tribes of Spain were renowned for their metalworking skills, and the Gladius Hispaniensis exemplified their craftsmanship. Forged from high-quality Spanish steel, these swords were known for their strength and durability. In the hands of Roman legionaries, the Gladius Hispaniensis proved to be a game-changer. Its shorter length made it ideal for the close-packed formations favored by the Romans, where a longer sword could be unwieldy. The sword's point, sharper than earlier Roman blades, could pierce through enemy armor with ease. The adoption of the Gladius Hispaniensis marked a shift in Roman military tactics. The emphasis on stabbing over slashing reflected a growing understanding of the effectiveness of disciplined, coordinated infantry attacks. With the Gladius Hispaniensis, the Roman legions became a well-oiled machine, each soldier a cog in a formidable fighting force. Over time, the Gladius Hispaniensis evolved into the classic gladius, the sword that would become synonymous with Roman military might, but its Iberian roots were never forgotten. Number 3. Manica, the arm guard of the Roman soldier. In the brutal close-quarters combat of the ancient world, every piece of armor counted. For the Roman soldier, one of the most crucial pieces was the Manica, a segmented arm guard that protected the sword arm from enemy blows. The Manica was a marvel of Roman military equipment, made of overlapping metal strips, typically iron or bronze. The Manica covered the arm from shoulder to wrist. These strips were held together by leather straps, allowing for a degree of flexibility without compromising protection. The design of the Manica was a response to the harsh realities of ancient warfare. In the press of shield walls and the chaos of melee combat, the sword arm was a prime target. A debilitating blow to the arm could render a soldier helpless, easy prey for the enemy. With the Manica, Roman soldiers could wade into the fray with greater confidence. The segmented design allowed for a surprising range of motion, crucial for wielding a sword or shield effectively. Yet when an enemy blade struck, the metal strips would absorb and deflect the blow, saving the wearer from injury. The Manica was not a standard piece of equipment for all Roman soldiers. Its use was more common among gladiators, who relied on their arm strength and dexterity to survive in the arena. However, its effectiveness did not go unnoticed by the military, and many soldiers chose to wear a Manica as additional protection. Number 2, Lura Segmentata, the armor of the legions. Segmented plates of iron defined the iconic silhouette of Roman legionaries. The Lura Segmentata, worn at the height of the empire's power, revolutionized battlefield protection through ingenious design. This armor marked a radical departure from earlier Roman defenses. Composed of overlapping metal strips, typically iron, the Lura Segmentata offered superior protection compared to its chainmail predecessors. The horizontal arrangement of these strips, connected by leather straps, provided a crucial balance of flexibility and defense. This innovative structure allowed legionaries to move freely while bearing the formidable protection that helped forge an empire. The design of the Lura Segmentata was a response to the changing nature of warfare. As the Roman Empire expanded, its soldiers found themselves facing a wider variety of weapons and tactics. The segmented plate design offered better protection against the slashing blows of the Celts and the piercing arrows of the Parthians. But the Lura Segmentata's advantages went beyond mere defense. Its segmented design allowed for a greater range of motion compared to solid breastplates, crucial for the active fighting style of the Roman legionary. It was also easier to repair than chainmail, as damaged segments could be replaced individually. The Lura Segmentata was not without its drawbacks. It was more complex to manufacture than earlier armors, requiring skilled artisans and a reliable supply of quality iron. It was also heavier than chainmail, although the weight was distributed more evenly across the body. Number 1. Dbra, a versatile weapon. The unsung hero of Rome's conquests, the Dbra shaped empires as surely as swords and spears. This versatile entrenching tool, a fusion of pickaxe and adze, became the legionary's most trusted companion in both war and peace. Deceptive in its simplicity, the Dbra packed multiple tools into one robust design. Its broad, axe-like blade excelled at woodcutting and shaping, while the opposite end's pointed pick made short work of hard soil and stone. Even the sturdy wooden handle served double duty, transforming into an impromptu lever or club when needed. The true genius of the Dbra, however, lay in its role as an engineering implement. Roman military doctrine placed a heavy emphasis on fortification and siegecraft, and the Dbra was the tool that made these tactics possible. With it, soldiers could dig trenches, build ramparts, and construct the famous Roman marching camps that dotted the empire's frontiers. In siege warfare, the Dbra really shone. Soldiers would use it to dig trenches toward enemy walls, allowing them to undermine fortifications and bring them crashing down. In defense, the Dbra could be used to quickly throw up emergency fortifications, buying precious time against an enemy assault. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.